All right, so on today's episode, we had John Anthal, who is with Mancini Duffy, and he is an airline architect. What did you think about this episode?
I thought it was interesting. I never have talked to an airline architect before. And there was some aspects about even just airports that was intriguing to me, and I didn't know the difference between a terminal and a concourse.
I don't know the difference between a terminal and a concourse.
I'm just a good old boy from South Carolina that I don't fly too much, so maybe once or twice a year, and so I don't really think about those type of things. But after we had the conversation, it got me really thinking about the impact and the importance of good architecture inside of an airport. And maybe you only fly once or twice a year, but
I've never flown.
But whenever you do, it'll potentially impact you.
Yeah,
and
potentially.
And maybe you'll fly on one of the projects that he worked on, or you'll go to the airport.
Yeah.
Of one of the places that he worked on. So
the part I thought was kind of funny was when y'all were talking about just how they're making airports now to where you can, get checked in, you can do your ticket and do your own bag now at some specific airports, kind of like a grocery store where you can check out. And I thought that was kind of funny because you're an introvert and I'm an extrovert, and I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm a selective extrovert, and I don't want to think about having to interact with people.
And on the other hand, even though I'm an introvert, I get nervous about that.
I do too.
Like about the computer part of the kiosks.
Oh.
Because I guess it was habit that I've done that for so long. So when I go up to an airport and they have these kiosks, I just feel like
it's wrong.
It feels wrong.
You should have that uncomfortable interaction with a human being.
Yeah, you have to go through that, because I want somebody to say, you're good. Like we have
that's exactly what I want.
Whereas if you did it on the computer, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't get paid to do this.
Like going into the McDonald's now, and you don't go to the cashier, you go to like the computer thing, and it's just like, is this okay?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was really intriguing, and he had a really good inspirational point toward the end, which is one of the things we want to do on the Enhanced podcast, is find out how people enhance the world around us. So you'll have to listen all the way through, but I as most episodes, we like to really build up to that. So, but I think
feel like you do hit on it before you get to the actual point that like you can tell this person, they really have a passion for what they do, because you don't do something if you don't have a passion for it, if you don't want to do it. And so I think that we hit on that a lot of times in the architecture, construction, and engineering realm, is that people want to do this and they feel like they're changing the world around them through architecture, engineering, and construction.
Yeah, and I think maybe even if you're not into airline architecture or airline construction or engineering, that you are hopefully going to learn something today and be inspired, because the ideas that we shared and talked about today will apply to these other areas that you're in.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, my name's Andy Richardson, and this is Madeline, our producer, and this is the Enhanced Podcast. I've been in the structural engineering field for 27 years now, and I'm still learning so much from people all over the AEC industry. Join us for the Enhanced Podcast as we interview people and learn their what and their why. Let's jump to the intro.
Welcome to Enhance, an AEC podcast, where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
Hey, John. Welcome to the Enhance podcast today.
Thank you, Andy. It's good to be here.
And thanks for being on. So I got a question for you to kind of kick us off here. I noticed that you were an avid book collector. So if money was no object, what is the book that you would want to buy next?
Ooh, we're talking like special editions, original prints.
Yeah. I mean, it's sky's the limit. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm actually a really big fan of Edgar Allan Poe. So I would probably try to find like a first edition of some of his poetry. I think that would be a pretty cool thing to have in the collection.
Okay. Nice. So you like to read the Edgar Allan Poe poetry and study some of his things?
Yeah, definitely. And my daughter's into it right now, so we kind of collaborate on some of those things and talk about them in depth, analyze it. It's fun.
Yeah, that's a good hobby, sounds like. And so what are you reading right now? Some Edgar Allan Poe or anything else?
Right now, I'm reading The Jungle Book to my younger daughter. So I like to read some of like the classics that are for children with my kids. So that's one of them that's at the top of the list right now.
Yeah, awesome. That's good. That's a good habit for sure to
Mhm.
read. And teaching her how to read, like not just how to read, but the habit of reading, so important, I think. And then another hobby or habit that you have that we noticed, we stalked you a little bit, but
It's okay.
another habit that you have is compulsive list making. So,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
has that impacted, and maybe the book collecting, but how has these habits that you have impacted your career?
So I think it all stems from like a curiosity about things around you, and that's why I make lists. Is because I'm kind of like obsessing about finding ways to be more well educated, and it doesn't have to be like formal education, right? It can just be like knowing things around you in the world and their place in it and how it might impact or influence other things. So I think one of the things, if you're reading our website, was that I made a list about all the classical music because I wanted to learn about it and start to kind of understand its origins. Um, I think that habit of being deliberate and rigorous with some sort of study, any kind of study, uh, is important. It kind of enriches your life, and then you can move on from that and start something new and always reference back to it. So I think that's why I like doing that.
Yeah. Okay. And I imagine there's probably some goal setting too, or do you like to set goals for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think whether it's something discrete like trying to listen to classical music and educate myself on that, or if it's working on a project and trying to understand the client's goals and my goals and where they might overlap, uh, I think I think it's always important to use the list making tool to inform the decisions that you make moving forward.
Yeah. Awesome. And I mean, I think with one of the things about list making is just like the connections that you see as you're making a list of classical music. You might the first three or five is like obvious usually
Hmm.
is unless you're doing a research project like okay maybe you're not into classical but for you books and all the books you've read or all the books you're thinking about reading the first five or seven is usually pretty easy to get to but then after you push forward it's like okay what else is there and then it sort of stimulates it's like a brainstorming activity. It stimulates ideas, and so I think from that standpoint, it probably helps from a creativity aspect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like going after topics that I'm completely unfamiliar with. I find that adds like a layer of understanding to the world that you didn't carry before. Um, and you find, like you said, weird connections. Everything is sort of webbed together, and uh, reading one thing might lead you to think about a problem that is completely unrelated in a different way. And that kind of interplay between knowledge that's gained is really really intriguing to me.
Yeah, awesome. So you're an architect, and what got you into that?
So I always was interested in the built environment. I liked interesting buildings and skyscrapers and towers when I was little. I always thought they were really interesting. Um, and then as I got a little bit older, I started trying to appreciate some of the more artistic things in life. So the interplay of light and shadow inside of a space was kind of interesting to me. I remember making forts, out of pillows and blankets as a kid, and we'd have like a crocheted blanket, and you'd see how the light would dapple through the holes in the blanket. Um, so that kind of spurred me to understand architecture a little bit more deeply, and then ultimately go to school for it. So, yeah.
Awesome. So good to get a sense of your background and what got you started with that things, and then at some point you've pretty much been with the same company for most of your career.
So I was with only two firms in my whole career. First one for about 6 years, and the last one for the last dozen. So
Yeah.
don't see myself going anywhere.
And your special what's your specialty,
Uh,
John?
so I lead Mancini Duffy's aviation practice. So we work on things for the airlines or for the airports themselves. Everything from retail and concession space to operation space for the airport itself, and then high end lounges and um, you know uh, specialty spaces for the airlines.
Okay, awesome. And How did you get going into that aspect of things?
So that was completely by happenstance. When I first started at Mancini, 12 years ago, we got one project, and they just put me on it. We had never done an aviation project in that office before, and so I just went through it, and I knew immediately I loved it. It was different than anything else I'd worked on before. There was a lot of intricacy to it, and you had to be aware of what was going on above and below you because there's so many other functions in an airport. The complexity just really intrigued me, and I wanted to do more. So I asked, and then we just started getting more and more of those types of projects.
Are you able to share what that first project was, or maybe at least a sense of what it was?
Yeah, sure. Our first project was with American Airlines at JFK in New York. They have a pretty large lounge that they wanted to renovate, and so we were able to do it. It's about 20,000 square feet worth of space, two different tiers of lounge for them, Admiral and Flagship.
Okay. So I just did my first airport project. It was interesting because I think it was my first one, but it was related to this idea of I think about it like an upfit of this space inside of the airport, right? Like that's basically what you're saying is this lounge, it's almost like a building inside of a building is the way I think about it, and
Yeah, that's a great way
I
to look
did
at it.
structural engineering on this. I mean, the building's already there, but I realized, well, these spans are still pretty significant, and these spaces are pretty. I mean, you just said a 20,000 square foot space inside of an existing building, so that's an interesting aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
But also, it's just a fun thing because you're dealing with a very unique aspect of travel and airports. What makes it? What goes into your mind? How do you account for the needs and demands of the airport versus maybe a lounge on the side of the road, in town? So how's that different, and what makes the design different?
So I think if we want to talk about a lounge specifically, you are dealing with a captive audience. However, that audience isn't captive when they make their selection about who they fly with, right? So the offering that an airline is able to provide is deeply ingrained in their marketing identity and their brand identity. So you're going to have an airline who wants to attract a certain flyer or a certain traveler. They have very high expectations, generally speaking, and they all have to fit into the feeling that you get when you fly with them, right? Like certain brands have different feelings, and so you have to be able to communicate that through the built environment.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so this is specifically like the American Airlines lounge that you would go into for frequent flyer type points and things.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what their gold or silver system is, but that would be the type of thing that you would be the lounge for those special flyers, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do things throughout the airport that's available to anyone that's flying, but it can be something like as simple as the check-in booths, where you go to check your baggage. They're branded in a certain way. The materials they use are very specific, and the feeling that you get and the way that you're able to interact with the teller are all communicated through the architecture itself. And that's all got to be in line with the brand standard and what amenities they're trying to advertise. So all those things help help the traveler make a choice, and then the experience that they have will either reinforce that they made the right choice or not. So we take the first step of the problem, and the workers have to then take the second half of the problem.
Right. And would you say that was one of your highlight projects that you've worked on since you've been doing airport work?
Yeah, definitely. The first one is always important, I guess. But I liked it for a number of different reasons. One is because it introduced me to the aviation practice and the intricacies involved there. But additionally, it was done as an IPD project, which is integrated project delivery, so an IPD. So we worked with a contractor up front, and it's a tri-party agreement between the owner, the general contractor, and the architect. which was a really interesting way to work, kind of similar to a design build. And so it really opened my eyes to different contract types as well, which was nice.
Right. So, what was the biggest thing there that made it? Did that make it a smoother project, or?
Yeah, I certainly think so. In the typical format, you'd put together a design with the client, and then you would create the drawings, and the drawings get bid, and then somebody pokes holes in what you've done and asks questions and tries to find maybe some budget alternatives. But it's all retroactive, right? Like, we've already designed the thing, we think it's done, and then changes have to happen. In either an IPD or a design build, we get to interact with the contractor from the start, and then we're able to kind of gut check things along the way. They can say, hey, like, I feel like this material that you guys are selecting is going to be a little bit more pricey than if we went with this option. What do you think of this? And we can start to make those changes as part of the design process instead of in reaction to it. And that I think is incredibly helpful to create a more cohesive project and ultimately a better and more financially viable project for the client.
And what makes it different from design build exactly?
So the IPD project it's a contract format where you would be determining KPIs, and if you meet those KPIs and you are under budget or under schedule time allotment, you get payouts according to the KPIs that were predetermined between the three parties. So the client gets to determine what they feel is important for, like, acceleration or budget, and then if you're able to meet those milestones, then the underrun gets redistributed amongst them. So you have your fee for the project, but then there's the potential for shared savings across all three parties.
Yeah, sounds like a good project delivery system. And but that's not necessarily the case for all airport jobs.
No, certainly not.
This is or aviation jobs. This is more like this particular situation. How did that come about? Whose idea was it to go with that project delivery system?
That one was client driven.
Yeah, they said, "Hey, I want to do this," and
we said, "Sounds cool."
Everybody said, "Yeah." Have you done much IPD since then?
We've only done it 3 times. Successful all 3 times, I would say, but kind of phased out somewhere around 2021. People stopped kind of chasing that contract format. So.
And what happened? I mean, did it just? Was there some downsides to it, or is it too complicated?
What I've seen as a trend is that contractors are being involved in the airport setting much earlier, regularly anyway, and so CM at risk has sort of become the more predominant route to go, and then they don't have to worry about doing the payouts or the shared cost savings at the end, right? So they get the benefit of sort of a pretty strong ROM pricing up front. And then they don't have to worry about payouts or underrun later on.
Right. So kind of a design assist is what some people like to call that. Is what I would maybe another way to think about that too.
Yeah.
But construction management concept there is what you're presenting, is what you're seeing a lot of, I guess.
Yeah, and the benefits that we saw in IPD in terms of the collaboration and getting all that information up front is still happening, right? So I'm, from a project perspective, still happy with that format over IPD.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like a good way to do it. So maybe we can see if we can find some jobs like that too.
Yeah, for sure.
So we didn't want to spend too much time on this, but BIM is something that you started with in your early part of your career, and how is that? What did you learn as a BIM coordinator, and how has that impacted you currently?
So obviously, it's become pretty ubiquitous, particularly in the airport world. When we're doing terminal builds, it's an absolute necessity that everything be three-dimensionally modeled, and coordination models have to be checked constantly. So fluency with that kind of software is, I think, paramount for anybody that wants to work in an airport, let alone an AEC in general, right? I would say that my experience early on in my career was that of actually a sort of a teacher. I was hired at Mancini to be the BIM manager, but mainly to help instruct the staff on the software, as it was primarily a CAD office. I really enjoyed that process because it was something I had never done before. I'd never been a teacher of any kind, and to learn how to communicate effectively with a group
Mm.
of people is something everybody should learn. It's hard, and sometimes when you think you're being clear, you're not, and you've got to learn that really fast.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and a decade and a half ago or so, I guess, or a decade ago, I mean, lots changed even in the BIM world. You know,
mhm.
um, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen or trends you've seen in the area of BIM?
I'm really pleased to see that a lot of the subcontractors are using it. In the field, doing design build projects, all the subs have fluency in BIM now. They use Navisworks or some other clash detection software. And so shop drawings are generated from kind of almost a shared model at that point. It's really conducive to a more collaborative uh, construction administration phase.
Yeah. And there's some thoughts out there and people that are down on BIM right now. So that have it's kind of feels like it's gone through some cycle of up, and now people have tried it for a decade or two decades, and there are people that are down on it, saying quote, I've seen some people saying BIM is dead. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you agree
I
with
would disagree. No,
that?
not from where I'm sitting or people that we're interacting with. It's still pretty important.
Yeah, what's the biggest thing that makes, or what about it makes it so important, particularly in your
I
line of
I mean I would say from an architectural standpoint, being able to document a set of drawings with the kind of the automated features, right? Things being tied in together, scheduling, all that kind of stuff. It's just it can't be beat. Going back to a CAD format and Excel spreadsheets, like that's not going to fly. It's going to eat so much time to get those things running. Uh, I could never go backward.
Right, right. Um, but you're beyond that aspect of things right now. You're in a design role and probably a project management role. Is that
hmm
correct? That's more of what
Yeah,
you.
that's correct. Yeah, I lead our aviation sector of work overall nationwide. So primarily in a project management position, but depending on the client needs and my relationship with them, I could be anything from a project manager, designer, project architect.
Yeah, and so you started out with this cool lounge project. Any other interesting jobs you worked on over the past decade?
So some of the ones that I find really intriguing are ones that have to be phased during operation. So I did a project in Boston that was about a co-location. So one airline moving from one terminal to another, and at the same time the terminal that was occupied needed to continue to operate. Right. So you had to phase the drawings so that you could do the work while the airport is operating and people are swinging. So you've got, you business units for them moving, and it includes things like, tech ops, which is, it's the folks who work on the planes, all the parts and the storage associated with them and the workshops, all those things. And so we're basically overnight flipping them one piece at a time, all the way down. And it was like a 75,000 square foot project, which was, that was probably the most fun, most
Yeah.
intricate. Yeah.
Seems like everything in airports is in the thousands of square feet, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
based on what we've talked about so far. And that makes sense. I mean, airports are big. The scale is big. Um, they're probably not really building too many new airports. It's a lot of renovation work, I would imagine. Is that true?
Uh, I, I would actually probably disagree with that. In
Okay.
New York right now at JFK, they're building not one but two terminals at the same time,
Okay.
brand new. So we have a new Terminal 6 and a new Terminal 1. They're both being constructed simultaneously. And they are, I mean, they're massive, massive
Yeah.
projects. Outside of New York, I think what you're seeing is a lot of expansion. They're doing concourse editions and things like that. That's pretty common now. Uh, so I think you get a good overlay of renovation work, but there's also still, big terminal builds going on.
Yeah, and you guys involved in the terminal work there in New York or some of those types?
So we are doing work inside of both buildings, but there is work directly for the airlines or for concessionaires. We're not doing the terminal itself. We typically that has to do with kind of like contractually working with the authority who has jurisdiction there and the investors. I prefer to kind of contract directly with the airlines and work with the brands and things like that. That's where our sweet spot's at right now.
Okay, that's fair. And so you've done work with American Airlines, and how do you what aspects of that branding do you bring to the table? Maybe with like an American Airlines, or how do you do that? Exactly. I mean, what are you looking for? How are you bringing that into the lounge or a similar project?
So most of the airlines have a pretty strong marketing identity and a brand identity. They do have standards that they like to reference. I would say that from an architectural standpoint, what we're able to do is understand the product that they want to sell, and oftentimes this is like a hierarchical thing, right? You have business class or first class and coach, and so those elements and how they translate to either a lounge type or topology or some other offering in like a hold room or whatever. We would want to work with the elements that they deem important for those from a branding perspective, and then say, okay, architecturally, here's how you can create that same tiered system. And that might be through the use of materiality, might be through the use of a space or a food type offering even. All of those things start to create like the separation that you want to see in a branding element. And then that stuff gets standardized as well and then rolled out so that they have a unified brand notion throughout the country.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but it's almost like you're in the lounge, you're almost in the airplane, the connection is happening as you're in the lounge, or mm-hmm. vice versa. As you get off the airplane, you still feel like, okay, I'm still with this brand, I'm still connected to this airline.
Yeah, are you loyal to an airline? I'm curious.
I'm not really. I would say I do tend to use American probably more than like Delta, but it's probably those two. But I actually was doing a flight last night, and I think I was looking at Southwest for part of it and Allegiant for part of it. But that was just because it was a weird like last minute thing. So for me, I'm not terribly allegiant to one airline, no. But if I had to pick one, I probably just American would probably be the one that I tend to lean toward. I don't know why that is. I guess they're probably the branding that you've done has worked, maybe.
I love that you attribute me with you, why you fly American. That's fantastic.
Well, I gotta ingratiate my guest,
Yeah, I love it. What's like the best experience you've ever had in an airport? I'm just curious because.
Okay, I tell you, I had. Now we're not lounge people, I gotta admit. So I'm not quite that cool. I wish I was, but I will say, my wife and I went on a trip about a year ago, and it was just really fun because we had a pretty good layover. Mm-hmm. And it was just really fun to sit at a random place and have, I think, some kind of Oriental dish or maybe Mexican dish. Mm-hmm. And it was a nice location inside the airport, and it was just fun. Like, and then you were able to go over. It's almost like being it is a food court, and it's just it feels like you're in a food court. You're like, hey, let's get a little bit of Mexican. Let's go get a smoothie. For me, that's fun. So. And it was a little mini date for us during that layover, which that was the first time that we traveled together since we got married, like a long time ago. Without kids, yeah. So
without kids. I've been there, man.
My producer, Madeline, she's giving me some help here, but anyway. Yeah, so it was fun to just travel with her, and that was different than some of the times when I've traveled alone. And usually when I travel alone, my biggest thing that I do is just get a cup of coffee and work on a laptop. So, but and that's fun too for me. Not the necessarily the work, but there's a change of environment and people watching. That's kind of fun, you know. And just like it's just interesting to see all the different walks of life coming through. So that's my take on an airport, I guess.
So what you just described is exactly what they're trying to capture, right? Like you are different people in their like demographic that they're looking out for. The single traveler, right? Just heads down, need a place to work, want a good cup of coffee. The couple that's out on a vacation and they want to spend a little bit extra because it feels special, right? They get a little meal or something. You want to have space for that. All of this goes back to the idea of customer experience inside, right? Like what classifies a great airline, what classifies a great airport. All of those things are about meeting the demographic needs of those people. I mean, even like one of the things that's huge is how do I get out of the airport on a ride share? Right? I've been to airports where you're like, I don't know where the signs are. I can't find my way. You're wandering around. You're lost. City you don't know. And then you go to some others and there's just signs and they're like, go this way. It's right here. Or they have a shuttle immediately as soon as you get out of the terminal. Like there are simple things that once you experience it once, you never think about again until you don't have it in front of you.
Yeah. Signage. I mean, that's huge. Like,
yeah, wayfinding is a huge deal.
Especially you don't know because you can't like GPS it like in a car. I mean, they probably have that now, but you just don't know where you're going. You don't know where you are. I mean, you've never been to this airport before. That's the whole point of traveling.
Yeah. Somebody made a joke once. We were late to a meeting inside of an airport. And when we got in, they go, "Oh, we know what happened." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry, we're late." And they said, "No, you wore your vest. You probably got stopped 10 times." Right? Because everybody wants to ask the guy with the vest on, how do I get to my gate? Where's this thing? How do I get to food? Where's the bathroom? Right? And it's true. It's true. Wayfinding is important.
Yeah, that would be a fun thing to do is to wear that vest. If you wanted to create some good YouTube. So what now for you? How has that changed your experience as a traveler? Has it changed?
Oh, I'm way more critical now. Way more critical. Yeah, I think, and it's a delicate balance. You want to cater to a family. You want to cater to the business traveler. You have to meet everybody's expectations, and that's difficult. So there's got to be a space for everybody. And I think newer airports are doing a really good job of that. But the retrofitting of things is incredibly painful. One of the things that's starting to get rectified, right? Because terminals are basically on like a 25-year loop before they start to do like renovations or knock them down and start over again. If you look at JFK's Terminal 8, we just went through a huge renovation of that. And one of its most crippling things was that it was built right before 9/11. And so it was not designed to house the required TSA security lanes that were then implemented a year and a half later. And so there's like this huge bottleneck. And if you go through, it's stuck and like everybody's putting their shoes and their belt back on. And it's like a really clumsy and awkward entry into the terminal. And we had to try and rectify that. So, it's just nature of the thing, how things progress, I think, and then being able to adapt readily to it.
What are the latest trends? I mean, that was 9/11 was a big one. Obviously, it seems like COVID probably had some impact. Was there any? What are the other trends that are going on right now that are impacting airport design?
I would say the ride sharing is a big deal. A lot of people are starting to have captured that problem and fixed it internally. I would also say that public access to the terminals, right, being able to take public transport. Is a big push now. So air trains and things like that are becoming pretty prevalent and highly considered, especially in master planning, even if they don't exist at the airport now.
Yeah. I think, what about cell phones and just mobile usage? I mean, that's, like, for example, watching not even old movies, but like, 10 years old or 15 years old, and they have tickets, But is it mobile impacted? I mean, even just like having plugins is probably.
Yeah, I mean, power is like one of the biggest considerations. Every hold room that you go into now has got, a plug at every seat essentially, and or if they're designing it, they want one at every seat. So access to power is a big deal. And believe it or not, that puts some pretty substantial draw on older infrastructure. That wasn't necessarily something that people 20 years ago were thinking about, and
Yeah.
now it's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you go to any lounge. Well, what do you call it when you're waiting for is that the lounge? That's not the lounge. That's
The hold room
the
where you're waiting
whole.
for the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah. hmm
So yeah, that's you got everybody plugged in there, and so that it probably has a big draw.
Yeah. I would say the automation of some tasks, right? Baggage handling is sort of like a big deal. Some airports now have sort of automated bag drop. So, you go, you weigh it yourself, you put it in the machine, it does a security scan, and it gets dropped off, all without having, a porter there. There is no human interaction. It's all, automated. Even some security is just facial scans now. You don't show a ticket, you don't scan anything, no passport, no ID. You just show up, they take a photo, and you walk through.
Okay.
And that progression, I think, is going to start to buy back some room that has been dedicated to like TSA lanes in the past. I think that's going to start to slim down a bit.
Maybe speed up some things, hopefully,
Mhm.
too, possibly.
Yeah.
But that's sort of weird when you go in and you're like, I feel like I need to talk to a human, but we get trained on those things. I mean, we get it at the grocery store, so I guess we can do it at the airport too, right?
Yeah, scan your own groceries, right?
So what moment did you have at an airport that you said, and maybe it was your design or somebody else's, but you're like, you know what, this is a good moment. This is a good experience right here, a good design.
So I guess like most recently, we had the pleasure of working with Cathay Pacific. They're number 3 airline in the world, very high quality, known for their customer service, exceptional customer service. Up until the time that I visited their lounge in Heathrow in London, my experience with lounges has always been, I would say, extravagance, right? Like it's sort of a correlation between, I got in through past the velvet rope kind of thing, right? And there's like lots of food, and there's just excess in a lot of ways. And whether that be like super plush chairs or, more room or big showers or whatever, it's typically excess. When I walked into the Cathay Lounge, I found it kind of refreshing. The design is very simple. And when I say simple, I don't mean that there isn't detail to it, because there absolutely is. It's the ceilings are brought down lower. It has much more of a residential feel. As opposed to walking into like a lavish club, it feels like you're walking into a living room, like a very beautifully appointed living room. And that difference was not something that I had experienced before, and I really loved the way that they had thought about that.
Right.
So I would say that was like a kind of an aha moment for me, and to see the way that things could be treated, and sort of a opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
And
that's like what is quote nice or what is luxurious. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to necessarily mean, like the plush and the big and the volume. It could actually mean, a quaint type feel.
Intimate, familiar, well detailed, like that kind of thing is equally as difficult to pull off, I would say.
Yeah, which makes sense if you think about people who just want to be comfortable. They want to be, but then also what's cool about going to the airport is seeing. I mean, one of the things I love is seeing all this huge volume. I do like seeing the huge volumes as I'm walking through the terminal part or the concourse part, and just seeing like these big spans. And I'm a structural engineer, so I love seeing that. But then to think, okay, I could go into these other areas and relax and have a quaint feel, and it's kind of neat to think about that contrast.
Yeah, and I think that goes to brand identity, right? Once you find something that you like, you're going to start to be loyal to it because it meets your expectations, whatever your individual expectations are. And so an airline can be like super specific, or an airline can try and be more general and appeal to more people. And I think that's what kind of makes each of them different and interesting in their own ways.
Yeah. So if you thinking about maybe somebody coming up into this career, you 15 years ago or 10 years ago, what would they're considering going into the aviation field, architecture? What are some things that they should know about, or what would you tell them?
Get in the field as soon as humanly possible. So, like, if you get put on a project, demand that you go out to the site with whoever's going out there so that you can experience it. Not only is the community small, right? Like the people who work on airports kind of know each other, right? There's only a handful of them, especially regionally, right? You're going to be in a limited pool, and you all have to work together, and you all have to collaborate, and your jobs are undoubtedly going to be overlapping one another in some way. Right. If I'm on a floor and I've got to do plumbing work in the slab below, there's somebody in that room below me, and I bet you they're doing work at the same time. And so you're going to have to kind of communicate that and work through things. It's also going to give you insight into the inner workings of the systems that are in play in the airport. Like a BHS system is, one of the most complex things you'll ever see. But I can't describe it to you. You have to like be in the room and see all of these like baggage belts just grinding and going, and to see how intricate that is and how much it space and time and thought and coordination it takes inside of that airport.
Now, how would you do that? I mean, practical advice. I mean, this is somebody who's young and they're nervous about asking people for help. So how do you do that? I mean, like, hey, can I go out? Just gotta do it. Like, how do you do that?
I mean, I'm under the assumption that this person is already getting put on a job that isn't an airport, and if they are, I think it's important that all the senior folks at a firm understand the importance of getting younger folks into the field. That's where I feel most of the knowledge is going to come from. And I would say to the younger kids, if they're not letting you go in the field, you're at the wrong firm. Like, it's such a critical piece of educational development. If somebody tells you no, you can't go to the field, that's insane to me.
Yeah. Okay.
I cannot comprehend. How can you draw something if you don't know what it looks like?
Right.
Like that doesn't make sense.
So get out there, look at it. You could just ask, I guess, right? Like, hey, can I go look at this stuff, or can I tag along? I mean, what's the worst thing I could tell you? They could say no, right?
Ask 1,000 questions. Like they're going to talk about things. Ask, like, what is this thing? What is that? Because there's stuff in the ceiling that you'd never know what they are. Ask about the systems, how operations work, even just how do things in the airport work. If somebody goes through security, what are the processes associated there? Hey, where do the employees go? Do they go through the same security or a different security? Like all of these things add to your base knowledge and help you inform design that you might have to do later.
Yeah. And I mean, this is applicable even if you're not in aviation. I mean, there's other people this is AEC, by the way. So other architects, engineers, and contractors. So, I mean, I think the larger question here, or larger lesson here, is ask questions, learn. I mean, you have to lower your inhibitions to basically have to humble yourself, right, and just do it. And that's me thinking back to my early career. I wish I would have done that more, right, instead of just like we talked about on the last podcast episode of spinning our wheels. That's great advice, John, and just looking at what's in the field, comparing that, and then the visual of that. I mean, architects, I mean, you guys are pretty visual in nature. So having that visual of, okay, that didn't work, and next time I'm not going to do that, what John did. Or whatever somebody else did, right? Like, okay. Awesome. And so the company name Mancini, it's Mancini Duffy or just Mancini?
Mancini Duffy, but a lot of people just refer to us as Mancini.
Okay. Sorry, Duffy.
Sorry, Duffy.
But so, what are you excited about in terms of Mancini Duffy, in terms of aviation or in general, looking ahead?
So when I started at Mancini, we were just a New York office, and we were about 45 people. We are now about 185 people. We have 7 offices. So I am really truly excited about the growth that we've had. But most importantly, the fact that our growth has been paired with like a really great culture.
Mm.
We've always kind of been younger leaning, because we find that younger folks tend to be more excited, and so we like to support that with some senior folks who are engaged and really interested in mentorship. And we find that we do like to develop people in house and kind of keep them. So our retention rate is pretty high. Um, and I'm just excited to see where we can continue to grow to. From an aviation perspective, obviously, the more offices that we open, the more reach that we have, and I'm excited to start doing work in other jurisdictions, beyond the Eastern Seaboard. So,
Yeah. So mostly your work personally has been on the eastern side.
for the most part, we've done a number of projects in the Midwest and out west, but the bulk of our work in the last 10 years has been on the East Coast. We have offices, one in New York, two in New Jersey, two in Florida, one in Phoenix, and one in Seattle. So we now have a pretty good reach. We've got some work out at SeaTac right now, which I'm going to go see next week. So I'm excited about that.
Okay. And what
Yeah.
is that? SeaTac? Sorry.
That's Seattle Tacoma Airport.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that'll be a fun place to go. It seems like Seattle's pretty happy right now, right?
Yeah.
um,
Maybe I'll get to see the the aftermath of the parade.
yeah. Looks like they hopefully they cleaned up a little bit after that. But well, that's awesome. How about global? You guys gonna go into the global market at all, or staying in the U.S.?
So we've actually already done some work in Hong Kong, with some of our other airline partners. So yeah, we would love to continue that. We work with a number of international airlines. We love working with like Lufthansa. So hopefully we get to do some work in Europe with them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
International, national, do it all.
Anybody that wants aviation work done, call
Give us
Mancini
a call.
Duffy. Call John.
Absolutely.
Now, do you do the quotes, or is that somebody else that does that?
Yeah, no, I read all of our proposals, having to do with aviation. Depending on the size and scope of it, one of our other project managers may write it together, but I always get the last look as it goes out the door.
Okay, so call you if we got some
Call
new
me.
work done.
I'll
Okay.
pick up, I promise.
So I want to go back to speaking of humility, because I want to go back. I'm mixed up about my words, and frankly, I don't really know much of. I always get these mixed up, the terminal and the concourse. So help me with those words a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So there's airport, right, and that's like the general code for that would be associated with the runway. All right, well, I guess it's the easiest way to say it. Um, then you have the terminal, which is an individual discrete building, typically. May be connected to others, but could be independent. And then you have something called a concourse, and that's when they have wings or segments that come off of that terminal. Are you familiar with stuff in New York? I'm trying to figure out like a good example.
I've been to one or two of those airports. The one that you can,
Okay.
I guess I don't know which one. Maybe it was LaGuardia.
LaGuardia. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right,
I
so
think
LaGuardia's it's basically like kind of set up in like an arc, and they've got individual terminals, and then each one of those terminals has concourses that come off of them. Yeah, it's set up like nodes basically.
okay. Yeah, I guess I should know better. I'm an engineer. I should but I just follow go to guess concourse C or concourse D. That's the concourse that is coming off of the main terminal.
Yeah, and
It's
then
like
the main thing they typically refer to as the head house.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. So when you get to the airport, you're at the head house, I guess.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so hey, we've learned a little bit. What else about airports should we know about that? Just generally speaking.
God, that's like a pretty broad question.
Yeah. I mean, like my producer, she's Madeline. She's 17. So what does she need to know about airports?
Always fly with the anchor tenant out of an airline, or out of an airport rather.
Anchor
So
tenants. I mean,
yeah, so like I live in New Jersey, and it's United is the anchor tenant at Newark.
Oh,
They're like the
okay.
big airline there. So you want to fly United because the anchor tenant always gets priority when it comes to getting flights slid
Oh.
into the order, the flight
So
order.
like earlier when I was telling you, like, I mean, Southwest, I'm in the Southeast and I'm
Mhm.
Southwest, that would be a no-no, basically, right?
I mean, as long as if it's not one of their hubs, or where they're the anchor tenant, yeah, I wouldn't. I'd try to fly with the anchor tenant if you can.
That's because they're just not going to have very good flights, or they're not going to have.
They typically get priority in the flight order. So like
Oh,
everything is timed, obviously, but right. But if like a flight's gonna have to get delayed because something happened, if you're not the anchor tenant, you're probably getting bumped before the
hmm,
anchor tenant.
got it. Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
Boom. Good.
little advantage.
A good tip. Okay. Any other quick tips for airline travel?
Wear comfortable shoes that are easy to tie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about that. Just the dichotomy, I guess, right? You've got the comfortable travelers, like in sweatpants and
Hmm.
Crocs, and then you got like the finance bros in like suits and shoes and
Yeah,
everything. Which I'm kind of in the middle. I'm an engineer, so I just wear like a polo and some cool slacks and
there you
shoes.
go. I'm in the middle with you.
So I'm just like, yeah, y'all do your thing, but I'm not going to show up in sweatpants, and I'm probably not going to
Mm-mm.
wear a suit either.
No, I'm not the one with the sleeping mask and the neck pillow, and yeah, that's not me either.
So, well, John, well, I want to ask you too because this is the Enhanced podcast, and
Mhm.
really a lot of this is building up to this because it's great to do airports and airline work, but what we really want to know is, how are you, John Anthal, and also Mancini Duffy? How are you guys enhancing the world around us? Are you just doing airline work? Or are you making the world a better place? It sounds a little bit it could sound a little bit cheesy, but to me, this is what I get value in. This is what inspires me. So, how are you guys enhancing the world around you?
So I think architecture is in a unique position that whatever we make is going to be like experienced by people, right? It's not something hidden. It's not going to be forgotten about, at least not in the immediate, right? Somebody's going to be using it, and whoever that person is, we have a chance to make their life either easier or better, on a scale, of course. But if I put the break room in a nice spot that has a window that looks out, that he can watch the airplanes take off from a comfortable position, I've made his day just a little bit more pleasant, right? Like just because I thought about that instead of just putting him in a back room with no windows and no view. So I think it's about trying to be really thoughtful about the people that we're designing for, and whether it be a small impact or a large impact, whether they notice it or not. Um, we as architects have a duty to attempt to make things brighter for people that are going to use the spaces.
Man, that's well put. I mean, sounds like a good vision for what you do every day, and I think we can now appreciate air travel a little better because of this conversation today. It sounds really
I'm
really
glad.
interesting, really exciting. I think it's going to impact really not just people in the airline industry, but it's interesting because maybe people that don't do the airline work, there's an aspect they can learn from that applies to residential or commercial, traditional architecture or construction. So those are some of the things I think we can learn from today. So pretty fun talk today. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up that maybe I forgot to mention or that you wanted to hit on?
No, I don't think so. But if you're interested in aviation architecture, and you just want to even just talk, you can always reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to discuss. But Mancini is not just aviation. We do pretty much everything. We're a 100-year-old firm. Everything from towers to restaurant branding and schools even. So we're across the board. Always just interesting people looking to make things better. So
Awesome. A little bit of everything. So,
yeah.
and how do people reach out to you if they want to do one of those type of projects?
So you can go right onto our website. There's links to the marketing department, and everything will get to me. Just make sure you say aviation, and it'll head my way.
Awesome. Thanks, John. It was a pleasure to have you on today.
You too, Andy. Thank you.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's episode of Enhance. And please leave a like, a subscribe, or a follow, and we'll see you next time.